right now I want Ro Nyangeri to just help us. Let's talk about talent management in football here in Kenya.
Yeah.
And the first question I just want to ask you is, what are the possible problems with talent management in football today?
Well, when we zero in on Kenya, the first problem that is really outstanding is there's a lack of proper management, right?
True.
We have individuals who I'll call fly-by-night operators. They claim to take care of our kids who have interest in this. But at the end of the day, and this is very empirical, they get our best talent, take it out to Central or Northern Europe, and essentially, for lack of a better word, dump the kids there, right? If you look at Kenyan football, you're going to see a trend where some of our best players go out to Sweden, go out to Norway or Finland, but then they're back after 2 years. No one asks, why is this guy back, right? It's because they're taken from here, dumped in Northern Europe, Central Europe, and no one really cares.
No one really looks after them.
No one cares about them at all. So that is the biggest problem that exists.
And Nicolette, you had a question for Ro Nyangeri.
I have several questions. One of the questions being, let's say, I'll give an example. We have a player in the Harambee Stars current team, Ismail Gonzalez.
Yes.
This is a Kenyan born abroad.
Yeah.
How do we now in Kenya bring back people who are born abroad? Because for him, he said in his interview, I think it was on the Star or there's a newspaper an article I read that he said his father is the one who pushed him to play for the country.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a player who's playing in Sweden of Kenyan roots. Is it John Maina or, if I'm not mistaken, that's his name, of Kenyan roots, who has not been pushed into playing local football. So should we say, because we have a lot of Kenyan talent abroad, young kids who are playing in academies abroad, how do we get them to play for, let's say, the national team, or decide like the Botang twins, one plays for the country and one play, like you play for either side, one plays for Germany, one plays for Ghana?
Well, that's a kind of worms that you're opening here. And what I can say is there must be an element of self-interest, to be honest. Because if you look at what happened to the Boateng brothers, it's because Ghana went to the World Cup, right? One guy decided he could not get into the first team.
The German team,
yeah. Like, oh, I'll go back to my roots. Same thing is happening to individuals who are not getting into the French team. We're seeing it in Algeria, we're seeing them in Morocco, right? So my thesis on this is that the team itself, the national team, must get into tournaments. Because these individuals, at the end of the day, you're a professional player. You want to raise your profile. How do you do this? You need to get into a team that's playing an international tournament, get eyes and ears in front of all these scouts, and that's when you raise your profile. So at the end of the day, to me, it's a very, very selfish kind of approach that will actually answer your question.
Sure.
Yes.
And I've been having something that has been bothering me for quite a while.
Yes. Because
we saw back in, let's say, 97, 98, the Kenya national team could go toe-to-toe. We remember what happened at Kasarani against the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Absolutely.
We gave them as much as we got.
Yes.
So my question is, like, since you're so deep into developing talents and being part of football in general,
yes,
I just want to ask you, where did the rain start beating Kenya as a footballing nation? Because if we talk about Nigeria and Kenya, we are worlds apart now as far as talent nurturing is concerned.
I can point it to 1989. That's actually when the rain started beating Kenya. Because what we've alluded to is the 97, 98 glory years. I think this was when Michael Koth was the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
But before that, there were the earlier glory years of Reinhard Fabisch, when he was first time as coach of the Harambee Stars, where Kenya went to the finals, I think, of the Africa Cup of Nations. And the team went up against was Egypt, which qualified for the 1990 World Cup, right? Mismanagement hit Kenya right after the 88 Africa Cup of Nations, right? There was also a transition that happened on the political side. No one thinks about this. We moved from a single-party era where a president could dictate that certain funds are going to be deployed into football. There's also the relationship between Kenyan football and German football. Many Olympic academies were set up in Kenya, right? But they need money to run. So if government does not deploy cash into the centers of excellence, it's a chain effect.
Absolutely.
That's when everything goes down.
Absolutely.
Now, talking about academies, how are the academies here in Kenya?
Well, I do not have a firm grasp of whether, first and foremost, we have 120 or 119 academies, right? But we're seeing a dual drive here from our academies. We're seeing some that are being set up by former footballers. case in point, I know there's one done by the former Harambee Stars captain, who used to be in Santos. What's his name? I forget.
The defender.
Musa Otieno, in Islam, sorry. Yeah, Musa Otieno has that one. But then we're seeing others coming along, privately owned, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing this more towards the Karen side of Nairobi. So there's a duality, right? Some academies do cater for individuals from a certain socioeconomic perspective, and the others on the other end. Yeah. And all of them offer different returns or different attributes to players.
And do these clubs, let's say like the Gor Mahias, the
Yes.
AFC Leopards, do they go into these soccer academies and actually search for talent?
My thesis on this is no. All right?
And that's a shame, actually.
It is.
We're seeing recruitment drives. You'll find that the clubs will come out and say, we are looking for players, come for trials, right? So the individuals leave the academies wherever they are and try to come to your big two or big three, if you can call it that, and try to make it when they're there. The scouting at the academy level is actually not happening.
Yeah, that's a shame. What's your take on that, actually? Because I feel Gor Mahia especially should be leading by example. As the big
As
team,
the biggest team in Kenya,
why
to be honest.
go out to these academies and scout for young talent?
Yeah, it's quite a shame because we look at these European teams. You look at the likes of Frankie de Jong. The boy is only 19 or 21, but they come with which and the maturity, plays football.
As well.
And I've always said, well, if you want sport to progress in whichever way you see fit, I think the infrastructure has got to be right.
Yes.
Because you see most players in Kenya, people have come of age when they are 26. You cannot do anything at that kind of age.
Absolutely.
It has got to start early. The journey has got to start early. So I think for me, but it's also because there are teams that have been reigning supreme in Kenya, whichever way you want to say it. Regardless of who you go and sign, Kogalo will still come to the party all season, every season. So I think for me, they've just got to go and find these young lads and, as they say, just give the youth a chance.
What's your take on that, Nicola? Do you actually agree that these teams should actually be... We're not saying like they should buy, when they're buying all their players, let's say they're buying 4 players in a transfer window, they go and pick all 4 players from a soccer academy, but at least
one or two.
Yeah.
Because if you look at even English clubs, I'll give an example. Ferguson, when he was scouting the Silver Twins, he scouted them when they were below the age of 18.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he looked at them, he followed them around, and these were kids who are not, let's say, from a well-off background that's putting them in a sporting academy where scouts come to collect from there. We need to have that thing where you have our top 5 clubs basically in Kenya. They go around and see. Even these small tournaments that are happening in league, you don't go anywhere. Go and see. There's always that one person who will stand out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pick them.
Absolutely.
Groom that particular player. That's who you can say is the identity, will be the identity of that particular club.
Yeah.
Because if you have 1 or 2 kids that you're nurturing from like the age of 14 to around 18, from Gor, we're just spending our time nurturing this young lad. That's the person who's going to be your DNA for the club. Not someone who you're buying from AFC or from another club to bring in, who's 33 years old, who's above 26 or 33. It doesn't help. They should be doing it. 1 or 2 players for our top 5 teams. It should not only be Gor's responsibility. It should be our top 5 teams.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Rose said something very important because we have never asked ourselves, the likes of Blackberry have gone to Europe. They still come back. You ask yourself why. It's because as young players, they never went through the basics. When you go to Europe, it's football by the book, script by script. So if you go there and you never went through the system back in your homeland, it becomes difficult to catch up. And you see sometimes even during games, the players that have been imported in Africa, let's say just generally Kenya, they struggle to even catch up with the pace and the stamina and everything about the European game. So we will always say this time and time again, if the infrastructure is not right, we're just fooling ourselves.
And does this actually, this is a question to all of you, does this actually affect our national team as well? Because you'll find that the club teams are buying players above the age of, let's say, 26, 27, 28. In a few years, when they're retiring, who takes over?
Who takes over when you're not nurturing anyone?
That's what I'm asking now.
Yes. Yeah. So you're made with a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like just jump in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Harambee Stars would just be there with no players. And
At some point. And then you don't want even those kids of ours who are playing abroad, under whatever national, if you're a dual Kenyan citizen, You're not even trying to get them back to play for your team, for the national team.
Okay, and
Yes.
Ro, another question, and how do academies actually find, develop and retain talent?
Well, different models, right? There are some that will do an open call. This one is purely a commercial-based site, right? Where you go to parents and say, we're going to take your kid to play in Leeds United, right? Kid should come here. Every month, there's a fee that they pay, and purely commercial, purely profit-oriented from the very start. But then we have another side to this, right? Where you find charities, okay? They try to reach out to communities to communicate particular messages, say women's empowerment, for example. And the way to communicate to the community is through football, educating through football. But when you're doing this, you're also harnessing talent at the same time. Yeah. It's a byproduct of trying to educate a person on something, but then you end up with talent. Yeah. So you're forced to create an academy from this. Because after you educate, what happens? Yeah, what happens to the kids? You need to do something to them. So there's a duality. There's a duality in the way academies actually identify and nurture their talent, right? But at the end of the day, to make academies sustainable, there needs to be an outlet. Yeah. Here, let's think about plumbing, right? We have all these things flowing in, and they need to flow out so that we don't clog the system. So we have all the talents all over the country. But where do they go? That is a question, right? And that is what we are trying to address as ITB. Okay. Talent management from where they are and taking them out for professional football beyond Kenya.
Yeah. And of course, like in an academy, let's just be honest, not all the players, let's say in a certain age group, will make it to that professional level. Correct. So then what happens to these other players who are like they say they've given everything into this academy, they've been training, and their life, their focus is strictly on football. What happens to these other players then?
So I'll give you two answers on this. First and foremost, what happens to them in Kenya right now? I have no clue, right? But I'll give you an ideal situation, ideal scenario. If you look at Barcelona and La Masia, right? Not everyone will go in and play for their C team or their B team, right? But at the same time, these guys are being taught other things around football, the ecosystem, right? You can become a coach, right? You can become a football administrator. You can become a referee, right? So a focus, yes, you failed to get into tier 4, tier 3 of Barcelona, but you've learned something else when you're doing this. Yes, that is something we also lack in this country.
So how far do you think, in terms of years, is Kenya from getting to, I wouldn't say the European level, but to that level where we can be like, we are seeing progress?
You're pushing me into a corner with that question. But with the experiment we saw with Bernard's goal, the German guy, right? He looked at it as a 12, 13-year project. Wow. So he's the German. He did it very well. We'll just copy him. We'll say 12, 13 years, and that's my answer.
But let me add into that, but Delvin, if you look at it, to be honest, in the entire world, the only people who have actually grasped football in terms of management very well are the Europeans. Whether we like it or not. Because if you look at our friends in Latin America, my friend, the things that happen there as well,
it's mafia football, but but at least you see their talent,
and you know,
young talent.
Even for them, it's been, even for Europe to get, they're not perfect yet, but for them to get at the level that they are, it's taken them years.
Correct.
So let's not make it seem like Nisisi shida. My goodness.
But you're going to make me laugh. I don't want to laugh because I'm cool.
Yes. But for Kenyan football, it's going from bad to worse because in the most elite league in the land, we saw last season, a team in the Premier League is not supposed to be dishing out walkovers. That is how pathetic we have become now. And if you look at all the scenarios here, you start asking yourself, where's the professionalism? Because again, these boys, most of these footballers, football is their bread and butter. If you don't go out there and pay them, or if they play the entire season, you don't pay them anything. In what way do you want them to show how much they're doing for the club? So I think for me, professionalism has got to be key in our football, because if it's not, things will just get worse and worse.
Now, now that we're discussing the football management in Kenya, there was a question on Twitter by Hanak. I won't mention that first name. Hanak, where she was saying, what's the difference between Nigeria, a country like Nigeria, let's put South Africa in there as well, to Kenya? Why are they so far ahead of us?
We'll touch on what he mentioned actually before, infrastructure, right? They have solid infrastructure in place, first and foremost, where you can identify Nwankwo Kanu when he's 11 or even 10, right? And you put him into this particular infrastructure or the ecosystem. He has the coaches, right? But one thing we actually miss here, nutrition. It's very important. The kind of food that this potential professional footballers are eating, right? Usually when you hear about Sir Alex, when he had these young boys, the young Beckhams and stuff, used to hit them over the head because of whatever they were eating, right? We've completely neglected that. So I'm circling back to what you're saying. Your question about Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, even South Africa. The infrastructure is in place. They've worked on stuff like nutrition. They've worked on psychology of the players. You need a winning mentality. Even if you're down 3-0, keep on playing, right? Yeah. And then the intermediation network as well. By this, I mean the agents. You'll find a club like ASEC Mimosa in Cote d'Ivoire has a direct linkage with a club in France.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it becomes an internal discussion. You're Devlin, you're just calling a guy, you're like, hey, Didier Deschamps, I have a kid. You want to see him? He's over in France. Boom. They've perfected that.
Now, pretty much, but Prince, take us through the first tweet.
Di Costa Kawira says, watching the show from home, it's a resting day for me. Shoiko Fiti.
Shoiko Fiti.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the tweet. Yeah, Shoiko Poa. Then we have Gary Nyandwa, who says, what do you think of Harambee Stars AFCON kit?
Read this name, Vizuri.
It's Nyandwa, Gary Nyandwa. Wait, so what do you think of the Harambee Stars AFCON kit? Now, of course, this is a question that Gary is posing to us. Well, I've seen the kit, and I think, well, it's a bit simple, and need I say more? A bit simple and costly. Costly, 3,500 shillings.
It's a combination of rangi za Kenya, moja white, red, and then green. So we have away, we have a home, na pia ile ya friendly. Green ni ya friendly. Sasa, so red ni ya home, and then white ni away.
Yeah, and like we said, you know, in this segment, we're going to interact with the pundits, the likes of Waziri Salim, Nicolette, White, and Delvin. Maybe Delvin, on your end, you know, take us through what Nicolette, Waziri, and, you know, Rigoti think of the Harambee Stars jersey.
Ro, you meant they are Ro, not Rigoti. But anyway, what do you guys think about that Harambee Stars jersey?
I'm already starting a GoFundMe for the white jersey.
They're already there.
Let me tell you, no, they're available on the website.
Even I thought I saw something like that.
No, as well. Maybe, probably, but they said the minute they released the kits, they were available on their website. I think the pricing, my goodness, for
the common man, the jersey 7K.
The Arsenal jerseys and
they should have reduced the price at least, so at least people can buy two or one jersey.
So just give them the standard price of 1,500.
Yes, and then again, you know, this is money that goes back into the club.
Yeah.
So make it affordable. Suppose we can buy at least two. We could have been shining with two of them. You want a Kahata one and a Wanyama one.
So you
but like now when you look at that pricing, you're like, you work a Wanyama / Kahata
on one jersey. Because it's too expensive.
You're saying you're going for the white kit.
I want the white one, yeah.
Ro, what about you? If you're to get from the... Me, of course, the green is out for me, but let me ask you.
You hate the green?
I don't like the green one.
The white is simple.
Yeah.
Thing being this, I've watched football for a very long time. The kit we have now is a vast improvement.
Vast improvement.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is one
but
of
the price point is
the very best
as well. Yeah.
I think the price point is where it's going to make like people fail to wear our own jerseys.
And the same that's price issue. Those people who want who like making replica jerseys will want to make a killing because they'll come up with most of the replica jerseys, the fake jerseys, so that the common man can afford. So they will have lowered the price so that the common man can get it too.
And which jersey are you going to go for? Which color jersey?
The white one looks.
It looks the best.
Yeah.
The white one really looks nice. Okay, the red one isn't so bad
either. It's not bad,
but the white one is, I don't know, you feel like you can blend it with anything you're wearing on a day-to-day.
It is nice.
That green one is a bit tricky.
Me, I'm not a person who wears a lot of color either way, so that green one won't even touch.
Anyway, let me get back to Dennis. Dennis, you tell me, which jersey will you be getting?
Which jersey will I be getting between Harambee Stars and the teams that we're facing in the AFCON group?
Between those colors.
Stop your banter. Stop your banter. Between the red, white, and green jersey.
I mean, all colors represent the flag of the country. So I'd be okay with any color, but maybe white. I'd go with the white jersey.
Kuna watu white haingiangi mahali nayo.
I knew Bar to chip in there. Bar, what jersey you get? What color jersey?
Wewe white hapana. Ukikuja wewe ni mwanaume bwana. You don't have to choose white.
Bar, my director says you look like the sort of person who will buy the green one.
But Delvin, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why white is the best jersey for Harambee Stars. You see, jerseys, as a player, you need to identify the rest of your teammates. You need to see exactly where they are in the field.
That's why they wear the same jersey.
But white is the most visible.
No.
White
That has never been the reason for colors of jersey colors. How do you identify them?
We have been hoodwinked.
Now,
Kuna mtu anabishana hapo?
yes, Bar Prince, it's
Nani
me.
anabishana? Leta yeye hapa.
But Bar Prince, you've not told me the color jersey you'll be getting.
Okay, the color. I think green is okay for me.
I knew my director said the truth. You
Siwezi
look
choose
like
white na
You
siwezi
look
choose
like the
red.
green.
Ukichoose
You look like
red
the green
unakaa.
jersey.
The only thing I have about the green one and the red one is that it reflects too much towards the north, because most of the North African teams are going to either be wearing
the
green
green
or red.
jerseys.
Yeah.
My problem with
red.
the green jersey, I think it screams too much. I wish it was a darker shade of green.
If it was a darker shade
Like
of
the one on
green,
our
then we would
flag,
have been
actually.
going towards the west.
Yeah.
They would have released a black one.
The keeper's wearing black.
But one thing
Nicolette.
commendable, it's a vast improvement.
Black.
Yeah, it's a
Say,
vast- it's a vast-
regardless of the colors and all that.
Yeah.
It
That's
has
one thing
the
we have to
best in
agree
a
on
very
there.
long time.
Yeah.
It's it's a big improvement
Delvin.
on the other jersey.
Delvin, I
Yeah.
think if they could have mixed those colors, ingekuwa sawa. Like ile
Ikuwe red.
ya kitambo.
Yeah.
Hii mambo ya kusema tunaenda na
It
white.
could have
we-
worked, depending on
no.
who designed it.
No.
It could have worked.
But it's okay. They
It was
look
already
good.
tried.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Heat, let's just take it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Among the three,
But I-
green
but
is my thing.
Do you know what I really hope for? The Kenyan Sevens rugby jersey. I
should
hope that
have
was our
been,
jersey.
yeah.
Oh, that jersey is marvelous.
The one with the Ngao.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that Mavis jersey is marvelous. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, Dennis, back to you. Take us through the Twitter feedbacks.
Of course. Twitter handles, Twitter, the Soccer 360, that is the page that we're looking at this afternoon. Kennedy Omondi says, pretty much poses a question to us. How many of Real Madrid's 50 biggest ever transfers can you name? That is Kennedy Omondi. Of course, we are going to answer maybe about 3 questions that have been posed to us. The next one is at 254 Digital, or pretty much Believe Digital. Now they ask Soccer 360, Kenyan football clubs should stop calling for trials. Then Mary Florence says, does Ghana have a master tactician to deliver the AFCON trophy? Yeah, maybe
Oh
Bar
my. Nicolette sijui nikurushie hii ama nini?
Hai, hata nimesikia nimechemka tayari.
I think the question that has caught my eye there is the Real Madrid question.
Real Madrid? Yeah. How many of Real Madrid's 50 biggest ever transfers can you name? Wow. That's the question.
Let me pick someone here at random to go.
Please. Salim.
What's the voucher for Salim?
Zidane, Figo, Hazard, Gareth Bale.
Thank you.
Iker Casillas was also. 50 are too many though.
Too many. Isco is one of them.
Keylor Navas.
Yes.
Marcelo.
Yes.
Marcelo was a record time, record signing.
I'm marking your
We
example.
have Modric, Ronaldo.
Couture.
The boy from what is it? Vinicius Junior.
Was
record. I can get to 20, 50 is too high.
How far back are we going? That's the question.
I was about to say that age is a bit of a factor.
But Salim,
Yeah?
Salim, let me ask, who is that person, that one person, that transfer, the biggest one that you will pick from those 10 that you've named?
Ronaldo, of course.
For me, as in the best,
Yes, the best. That
I
one
was
person.
for my favorite number 5, Zizou.
Or Zizou.
That was
Right.
that was magical.
For me as a Barcelona guy, the Figo transfer.
Or some,
Yeah, because
that's
Figo
the
was
one I'm
lethal
talking about.
on
On the
that,
other side.
in that team. He was such a key player.
But